All right, let's jump right into this explainer by picturing something pretty incredible. Just imagine planting a tiny, unassuming seed in the dirt. You walk away, you just go about your life, and quietly, over the years, that single little seed grows into a massive, sprawling forest. And you didn't do any heavy lifting at all. Well, imagine if your money could do exactly the same thing. Because today, we're unpacking the absolute fundamental mathematical engine that builds wealth for everyday people. We're talking about an invisible force in finance that operates just like that growing forest, completely in the background. Now, this invisible force has turned everyday 9-to-5 workers into literal millionaires. It completely transforms their financial destinies. And yet, crazily enough, most people never actually use it. They go their whole lives without tapping into this mechanism, all because of a huge misunderstanding about how wealth is actually generated. We're just so hardwired to think about work in one specific way that we completely miss the fact that our money itself can go to work for us. Section 1, the money misunderstanding. Let's look at why so many folks stay stuck. There is a massive, game-changing difference between merely earning money and actually growing it. Understanding this is absolutely crucial for financial freedom. When you're just earning money, you're on the traditional path, treating your precious, limited time for a paycheck. But there's a hard ceiling there, right? Because you only have 24 hours in a day. Growing money, on the other hand, is where you take those dollars, and instead of just spending them, you put them to work. You're basically hiring your dollars to act like little employees that work around the clock, 24/7, with zero coffee breaks. Section 2, unveiling the eighth wonder. Let's talk about how to actually grow that money. The legendary physicist Albert Einstein reportedly called it the eighth wonder of the world. I mean, really think about that for a second. The guy who unlocked the secrets of the universe, who gave us relativity, looked at this simple financial mechanism and considered it a literal wonder of the world. He understood its absolute, undeniable power. But let's take it out of the realm of complex physics and break down what this actually means in everyday language. Simply put, compound interest is money making money. It's this powerful, continuous loop. You earn interest on your initial money, and then, and here's the real secret, you just leave it alone. So the next time around, you earn interest on your original money, plus you earn interest on the new money you just made. Think of it exactly like a snowball rolling down a hill. At first, it's tiny, but as it rolls, it gathers more snow, getting larger and heavier with every single rotation, until it becomes an unstoppable avalanche of wealth. And you can clearly see the massive difference between simple interest and compound interest here. It shows exactly why compounding is the secret engine of wealth. With simple interest, the growth is just a flat, straight line. You get the same tiny bump year after year. Predictable? Sure, but painfully slow. But with compound interest, the curve starts off looking kind of similar, but then it shoots upward exponentially. It skyrockets. That exponential curve is why 10 grand invested at a 7% return doesn't just add $700 a year, but actually doubles entirely over a decade. It's the mathematical proof of how your money can eventually out-earn your day job. And looking at the history, it's clear this isn't some new fad cooked up by modern Wall Street. This has been the bedrock of wealth building for centuries. All the way back in 1800 BC, ancient Babylonians were using early forms of this concept for loans. Fast forward to the 15th century, and the super wealthy banking families of Renaissance Italy basically built empires on this exact math. And today, through modern investing, the same principle is right at our fingertips. It worked thousands of years ago, and it works exactly the same way today. But hold on, because the real magic hasn't even started yet. Understanding the history and the math, that's just step one. Knowing what a snowball is doesn't really help unless you know how to push it down the right hill. There is an active ingredient required to make this formula explode, and it's something most people take completely for granted until it's way too late. Section 3, Time, your financial partner. Let's unlock the true power of patience. So you might be wondering, can just a few dollars a day really create wealth? The answer is an absolute, undeniable yes. Let's look at a relatable example. Take a college student who invests just $5 a day instead of buying a fancy coffee. Because they are giving their money 40 years to compound it, average market returns, that daily $5 can grow into well over $250,000. No way, right? But it's true. They don't need to invest thousands a month. They literally just need consistency and time. The absolute secret ingredient to making those few dollars work is the magic of starting early. When you start in your 20s or even your 30s, you are giving your money the maximum number of compounding cycles. Your money has decades to make money, and then for that new money to make even more money.
Starting early is literally the ultimate cheat code in personal finance. It does the heavy lifting so you don't have to.
But what happens if you think you can just hold off? This is the trap so many of us fall into. We think, oh, I'll start investing later when I make more money or when things finally settle down. It feels logical, right? It feels safe to wait until you have a surplus. Actually, scratch that. Mathematically, waiting is the single most expensive mistake you can possibly make. The math shows the cost of waiting is just incredibly steep. Someone who starts investing today with less money will completely crush someone who waits 5 or 10 years and tries to catch up by investing more. You simply cannot buy back lost compounding time. It's gone forever. Knowing all this, you might think, okay, my money is perfectly safe just sitting quietly in a traditional bank vault. You worked hard for it, you put it in savings, and you think you're doing the responsible thing. Well, that brings us to a really harsh, eye-opening reality about the modern financial system. This next part surprises almost everyone. Section 4, the invisible wealth enemy. Let's look at what silently steals your wealth. That thief is inflation. Historically, it hovers right around an average yearly rate of roughly 3%. Basically, what this means is that every single year, the cost of groceries, housing, just life in general, goes up, and that silently eats away at your purchasing power. If your money isn't growing by at least that 3% just to keep pace, you are technically losing wealth every single day your money sits still. And this is exactly why keeping all your money isolated in a traditional savings account actually slows down your wealth creation. Because it earns tiny, fractional interest, your purchasing power drops. It completely fails to outpace inflation. Look, a traditional savings account is a great place for an emergency fund, for sure, but it is a terrible place to try and build long-term wealth. It's literally like trying to win a race while running on a treadmill. You're sweating, but you're going nowhere. Section 5, the millionaire's secret, which leaves us with the ultimate question. We know the rules of the game now. We know that ordinary folks can become rich by leveraging time and compounding, and escaping that trap of just trading time for a paycheck. But how do they actually do it? To discover the exact tools, the specific accounts, and the real-world strategies that millionaires use to unleash this invisible force in today's market, well, you'll have to join us for part 2 of this explainer. But for now, think about what you've learned today, take a hard look at your own savings, and ask yourself, is your money currently working harder than you are?
Welcome back to The Explainer. Last time, we uncovered the hidden math of compound interest. You know, how your money makes money, and then that money makes even more money. Well, today, we're taking that little snowball and turning it into an absolute avalanche. We are literally building a wealth skyscraper from the ground up. So let's dive right in.
Okay, let's start by looking at Warren Buffett. The guy's an absolute legend, right? But here's the crazy part. His true secret weapon wasn't a crystal ball or some magic formula. It was the calendar. Seriously, roughly 99% of Buffett's immense wealth was accumulated after his 50th birthday. He just let the math do the heavy lifting over decades, allowing compounding time to turn those initial investments into a massive, massive fortune.
So, here is our blueprint for today. We'll kick things off with the time advantage. Then, we'll cover where to grow your money, move into the rules for compound growth, highlight the mistakes that destroy wealth, and finally, wrap up with achieving financial freedom.
All right, Section 1. The time advantage. We're going to see exactly why time matters so much more than your actual income.
You've probably asked yourself at some point, why do the rich just keep getting richer? Well, it's not magic, and honestly, they aren't necessarily working any harder than you are. They've just managed to hire literally the best employee in the world, their own money. Once your wealth snowball gets large enough, it's working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It never takes a coffee break, and it never asks for a vacation. Eventually, the interest it generates on its own completely eclipses what someone might make working a traditional 9-to-5 job.
Which brings up another massive question. Can you actually become wealthy without pulling in a huge 6-figure salary? The short answer? Absolutely. Yes, you can. You do not need a high-paying job to get rich. You just need the discipline to start planting the seeds today, no matter how small they are, and let the decades multiply your effort.
Because, look, procrastination is the silent wealth killer. It really is. If you delay, you end up forcing yourself to part with massive chunks of your income later in life, just to play catch-up. But if you start early, your money does all the heavy lifting. It doubles, and then it doubles again, which radically minimizes the actual cash you have to pull out of your own pocket over your lifetime.
Think of it kind of like going to the gym, right? Going once a month and working out for 10 hours straight isn't going to make you fit. But going for 20 minutes every single day, that will completely transform your life. Consistency over decades beats sporadic lump sum investments every single time. You automate it, and you make it a permanent habit.
Moving right along to Section 2, where to grow your money. Let's look at the actual vehicles for compound interest.
Now, you might be thinking you need to know some super secret Wall Street insider to access compounding, but you really don't. The most powerful vehicles out there are accessible to everyone. We're talking stocks, ETFs, which are exchange-traded funds, index funds, standard retirement accounts, and dividend investing. These tools essentially let you own a tiny slice of the entire global economy. You're capturing the growth of human progress over time, all while keeping your money securely working for the long haul.
Okay, Section 3, Rules for Compound Growth. Here are the 10 rules you need to follow to make compound interest work for you.
So the crucial point with these first 5 rules is that they are all about mastering your own psychology. It starts with automation and a whole lot of patience. Rule 1, begin immediately, even if it's just $20. Rule 2, invest consistently every month so you never even have to think about it. 3, when your investments pay you dividends, reinvest them immediately. 4, put on your blinders and completely ignore short-term market panics. And 5, automate everything.
Building on that, the next 5 rules focus heavily on protecting that growth. Keep your investment fees low, because high fees will literally eat your compounding alive. Diversify, so you aren't betting your entire future on one horse. Increase your contributions whenever you get a raise. But the absolute golden rule here, never, ever interrupt the compounding process unnecessarily. You have to think in decades, not days.
Let's actually anchor this with a super realistic 20-year timeline so you can see what I mean. In year 1, the growth feels painfully slow. By year 5, okay, it's picking up some speed and you see a noticeable jump. By year 10, the interest being generated is actually matching the regular contributions you're putting in. But watch what happens around year 15 and year 20. The exponential curve takes complete control. The math basically goes parabolic, and suddenly your money is working infinitely harder than you are.
All right, before you set your portfolio on autopilot, we have to hit Section 4, Mistakes that Destroy Wealth. These are the 5 mistakes that will totally destroy compound growth.
These are the traps that will completely derail your progress. It usually kicks off with excessive spending, leaving you with absolutely nothing to invest. That often leads straight into accumulating debt, where compound interest is actually working against you. Then comes the temptation to withdraw early or chase flashy, quick profits, which almost always results in losing your capital. And hovering above all of these is the hidden, absolutely devastating cost of simply delaying.
Which brings us to our final section, Section 5, Achieving Financial Freedom, the ultimate goal of compounding. Because this right here is exactly what all that discipline is building toward, financial freedom. It's that beautiful mathematical tipping point where the interest generated by your portfolio completely covers your living expenses. You are no longer tethered to a salary, a boss, or an alarm clock. It is the ultimate reward for patience and discipline, and it relies on pure math rather than a stroke of luck.
I want to leave you with this final, powerful thought for this explainer. Most people spend their lives working for money. The wealthy learn how to let money work for them. The math of compounding is undeniable, but the one variable you can never, ever get back is time. So you really have to ask yourself, is your money currently working for you, or are you going to spend the next 10 years working for it? Thank you so much for joining me today. If you found this valuable, please like, subscribe, and comment below telling us exactly what age you plan to start investing. See you next time.